The wind outside howled across the silent desert of planet Alaris 9. The night was cold and empty, the kind that could swallow sound. Inside a small wooden cabin, far from the city lights, Draven Cole worked alone on a broken drone engine. The soft hum of tools was the only noise. He liked it that way, quiet, safe, hidden. Then the peace broke. A loud boom echoed in the distance, followed by the sharp crack of metal hitting the ground. The night bird scattered into the sky. Draven froze, his hands trembling slightly. He had heard that sound before, a crash landing. He stepped outside, the desert wind cutting through his worn jacket. Far on the horizon, a small flame flickered and died. Smoke rose like a dark ribbon against the silver moons. "Not again," he whispered. For years, Draven had lived in exile, away from wars, soldiers, and everything that made him remember who he used to be. But tonight, the past seemed to have found him again. He climbed into his old sand rider and drove toward the crash. The air was thick with dust and static energy. When he arrived, the wreck was still glowing red-hot, a small transport pod, military design, marked with strange symbols. Through the broken hull, he saw movement. A figure crawled out, barely standing, tall, armored and bleeding. Her armor was black and silver, cracked in several places. Under flickering light, her face looked human, but her skin carried a faint emerald glow. Her eyes, cold and bright as knives, met us for a second before she collapsed into the dirt. Draven rushed forward. He turned her over gently and felt a weak pulse. "You're still alive," he muttered. Her weapon, a plasma rifle, was clutched tightly in her hand even in unconsciousness. The nameplate on her armor caught his eye, V-K-Y-N. His breath stopped. He knew that name. Vera K-Y-N, the Crimson Ghost, the most feared assassin in the known galaxy. Every soldier had heard her story. The woman who could end an army alone, who left no survivors, no witnesses, no mercy. Draven looked around the dark desert. He should leave her. He should call the authorities, or better, walk away. But instead, he found himself lifting her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, trembling slightly. "Damn it," he whispered. "Why am I doing this?" He carried her back to his cabin. The Sand Rider's engine roared into the cold night as the smoke of the crash faded behind them. Inside the cabin, Draven laid her on the workbench. He stripped off her damaged armor, revealing deep wounds across her shoulder and ribs. Half flesh, half machine. Under her skin, faint circuits glowed like blue veins. Whoever created her had mixed human and weapon in one body. He used his old field kit to clean the wounds. As he worked, her breathing grew steady, but her hand still clutched the weapon's grip like a reflex. Draven slowly pried it away. When he turned, her eyes were open, sharp, icy, watching him. "Where am I?" she said weakly. "You crashed?" Draven replied, stepping back a little. "You're safe for now." "Why help me?" He hesitated. "Because you needed it." She tried to move, but pain shot through her side. She looked around the small cabin. Wooden walls, dim light, tools scattered everywhere. It was nothing like the metal cities she was used to. "Who are you?" she asked. "Just a mechanic," he said. "And you?" Her eyes narrowed. "You already know." Draven didn't answer. Instead, he poured water into a small cup and placed it near her hand. She stared at it like it was something foreign. After a long pause, she said quietly, "No one helps me, not unless they want something." "I don't want anything," he said. "Just rest." Hours passed. Outside, the wind died down. Inside, the air was tense. Draven sat in silence, watching the fire flicker. The woman, the killer, was asleep on his table. He kept asking himself what he had done. Suddenly, her body twitched. The light under her skin pulsed rapidly. A faint voice came from inside her armor, metallic, distorted. "Target?" Draven Cole confirmed. His blood ran cold. He rushed to her side, checking the display on her wrist module. It was flashing with strange code. Her breathing became heavy. Her eyes moved under her lids. She was dreaming or remembering. Then she spoke, still half asleep. Run! They'll come for me for you. Draven's mind raced. Who were they? How did she know his name? He had erased his identity years ago. Before he could think more, the scanner on his wall beeped. An incoming signal. Closing fast. Damn it! He whispered, grabbing his old rifle. He looked at Vera again. She was unconscious but muttering words, names, coordinates, codes. Outside, a red light flashed across the night sky. A drone scanning, searching. Draven crouched by the window, breathing slow. He had two choices: hand her over and stay safe, or protect her and invite death. His hands trembled as he made the choice that would change his life forever. He turned off the signal beacon, shut the door, and whispered, "You're not my enemy. Not tonight." The drone hovered for a moment, then drifted away into the darkness. Draven exhaled. He looked at Vera, still unconscious, her hand twitching as if fighting something unseen. He didn't know who she really was. He didn't know why fate brought her to his door. But deep inside, he knew one thing: mercy was dangerous, and he had just chosen it. The morning light touched the edge of the wooden cabin, sliding across the floor like gold dust. Outside, the desert was calm again. Only the wrecked transport pod, still smoking in the distance, reminded Draven of last night's chaos. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard her voice, that strange machine whisper from her body, "Target." Draven Cole confirmed. He sat at the table, staring at the woman lying on the bed. Her armor was gone, her wounds covered with patches and wires. Her green-tinted skin glowed faintly in the dim light. She looked peaceful now. Not like the legend, not like the killer called a Crimson Ghost. Draven rubbed his temples. "What are you, really?" he whispered. Just then her eyes opened. Vera blinked a few times, confused. The color of her eyes shifted slowly from silver to soft gray, almost human. "Where am I?" she asked again, her voice faint. "In my home," Draven said. "You crashed last night. You're lucky to be alive." She tried to sit up, but winced in pain. "I don't remember," she said slowly. "I remember falling, and then nothing." Her tone was strange, honest. "Maybe." Draven studied her carefully. "You really don't know who you are?" She frowned, touching her head. "It's blank. I see flashes, faces, places, fire. But everything disappears before I can understand." Draven exhaled softly. Maybe the crash damaged her memory systems, he thought. Maybe she doesn't remember what she's done. For a moment, he almost felt sorry for her. Later that day, Draven went outside to gather parts from the wreck. The sky shimmered with heat, and the air smelled of burned metal. Inside the pod, he found a cracked data core, full of encrypted files and military codes. He slipped it into his pocket. If she remembered who she was, this core might tell him the truth before she did. When he returned to the cabin, Vera was sitting up, staring out the window. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For saving me. You didn't have to." Draven shrugged. "Maybe I shouldn't have." She turned her head slightly. "Do you want me gone?" He didn't answer. He just walked to his tools and started fixing a small power cell. Silence filled the room again. After a while, Vera spoke. "There's something strange about this place. It feels peaceful. I don't think I've ever felt that before." Draven looked at her. "Maybe you just never stopped long enough to notice." She gave a faint smile, then it faded. "You talk like someone who's seen too much." "I've seen enough," he said simply. That night, Draven sat by the fire while Vera rested again. The data core he'd found was glowing faintly in his hand. He connected it to an old terminal, trying to open files. The screen flickered. Lines of code flashed before forming a sentence. "Project Eclipse, Asset V09 active." Then an image appeared, Vera, in full armor, standing among a field of bodies. Her eyes were cold, her face expressionless. The file labeled her as Eclipse Division property. Mission logs showed hundreds of assassinations, government leaders, soldiers, scientists. Draven stared at the screen, heart heavy. She wasn't just a killer. She was built for it, engineered to destroy. He looked over his shoulder at her. She was asleep again, her breathing calm. What happens when she remembers who she is? He thought, will she kill me next? Suddenly, a faint sound came from outside, a soft mechanical whine. Draven's instincts kicked in. He turned off the terminal, grabbed his rifle, and peeked through the window. A surveillance drone hovered in the distance, its red sensor light sweeping across the sand. They found her, he whispered. He rushed to Vera and shook her shoulder gently. Wake up. We have to move. She opened her eyes, dazed. What? Why? There's a drone outside. It's searching for you. If it sees you, more will come. Fear flickered across her face. Or maybe confusion. Who's searching for me? Whoever made you, he said. Whoever sent you here. Vera stood up slowly, gripping the wall for balance. I don't even know my own name, she said in a trembling voice. And now someone wants me dead? Draven checked his weapon. Not dead. Captured. Or worse, reactivated. Her breath quickened. What do you mean, reactivated? Draven hesitated. You're not just human. You're part machine. Whoever built you can control you if they find your signal. For a long second, she said nothing. Then she whispered, So I'm not free? Not yet, Draven said. The drone's light grew brighter. It was closing in. Draven motioned for her to stay low. Get to the back door. Quietly, they moved together through the shadows. The soften of the drone passed over the roof, scanning. Then it stopped right above the cabin. A red beam shot through the window. Scanning. Draven ducked behind the table, pulling Vera down with him. The air vibrated with static. Then, click, the drone's camera locked onto her. Run, Draven shouted. They burst through the back door into the cold night. The drone fired a pulse blast, exploding part of the cabin wall. Wood splinters flew through the air. Draven and Vera sprinted across the sand toward the rocky cliffs. The light from the drone followed them like a red eye in the dark. They reached a ridge and dug behind a boulder. Draven aimed and fired his rifle. The shot hit the drone's lens, sending sparks into the air. It spiraled, crashed, and exploded in a flash of blue fire. Silence returned, heavy, tense. Vera looked at him, breathing hard. You saved me again, she said softly. Draven wiped the sweat from his forehead. Don't thank me yet. They'll send more. She looked down at her hands, the faint glow under her skin flickering like broken light. I don't know who I am, she whispered, but I know one thing. I don't want to be that again. Draven looked at her, at the killer who couldn't remember her crimes. For the first time, he saw something human in her eyes, and that scared him more than anything else. The desert wind howled across the broken cabin. The fire was gone, the walls half-burned, and smoke curled up into a gray morning sky. Draven Cole stood at the ruins, his weapon still hot from the night's fight. The drone's wreckage lay in pieces nearby, black metal scattered across the sand. Vera watched in silence. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of questions she couldn't yet ask. Why did they attack? She said softly. They weren't after me, Draven replied. They came for you. She looked down at her hands, the greenish glow faint beneath her skin. Why? Who am I really? Draven didn't answer. He had spent the night decoding the data core he found in her ship. He knew the answer now, and it terrified him, but he wasn't ready to tell her yet. Instead, he said, We have to move. If one drone found us, more will come soon. She nodded, her expression unreadable. Together they gathered what little they could, tools, ammo, water. Draven loaded the supplies into his Sand Rider, an old vehicle that coughed and rattled but still worked. As the engine roared to life, Vera turned to look back at the cabin one last time. That was your home, she said quietly. It was, Draven replied. Now it's a signal fire. Everyone will see it. They drove into the desert, the sunlight burning across the dunes. Hours later, they reached an abandoned outpost, once a trade station, now just rust and sand. They set up inside an old hangar, sheltered from the wind. Draven worked on the radio scanner, trying to pick up transmissions. He froze when a voice came through, sharp and metallic. Bounty alert. Subject, Vera Kyn. Alias, the Crimson Ghost. Status, armed, extremely dangerous. Reward, 500 million credits. Alive? Draven's hands tightened around the radio. 500 million. Enough to make half the galaxy hunt her down. Vera stared at the radio as if it were speaking a foreign language. They said my name, she whispered. Vera Kyn, that's me? Draven turned off the radio. Yes. She shook her head, stepping back. But I don't remember killing anyone. I don't remember being anyone. You were programmed not to, Draven said quietly. They erased your mind after every mission. Her breath caught. Programmed? What do you mean programmed? You're not just human, Draven said. You're half synthetic. They built you for assassination, then wipe your memory so you'd never question it. Vera's hands trembled. So all those faces I see in my dreams, they're real, Draven said. Victims, targets. She sank to her knees, silent for a long moment. The wind outside whistled through the cracks of the hangar. Finally, she said, Then why did you save me? Draven looked away. Because I saw someone who didn't want to kill anymore. That night, Vera sat alone by the fire, staring at her reflection in a broken piece of metal. The faint light shimmered across her face. 500 million credits, she said softly. That's a big price for one person. Not for what you've done, Draven replied from across the room. Then why not turn me in? She asked. He gave a tired smile. Because I've seen what the galaxy calls justice. They don't want truth, just control. Vera's eyes glowed faintly in the firelight. You think I can change? I don't know, Draven said. But running won't fix what's broken inside you. You have to face it. She nodded slowly, as if she wanted to believe him but didn't know how. Suddenly, the radio crackled again. A voice, deep and rough. This is Rax Arden, former command unit, calling out the ghost. I know you're alive, Vera, and I'm coming for you. Draven froze. The name hit him like a bullet. Rax Arden, a bounty hunter, ex-soldier, and once Draven's brother in arms. Vera looked up sharply. You know him? Yes, Draven said, his voice low. And if he's coming, we have to move now. They rushed to pack, but Vera stopped halfway. Wait, she said. What if I stop running? What if I face him? Draven turned to her, surprised. You can't fight him. Not like this. You're still healing. Her gaze hardened. If he knows who I am, maybe he knows what happened to me. Draven hesitated. He could see the fire in her eyes now, the part of her that wasn't erased, the part that wanted to understand. Before dawn, they set out again. The desert stretched endlessly, glowing orange under the twin suns. Draven checked the radar. 2 signals were following them, closing in fast. They've already found us, he muttered. Vera gripped her weapon. Then we finish this. A few minutes later, the sound of engines filled the air. 2 small pursuit craft appeared on the horizon, kicking up dust behind them. Draven swerved the Sand Rider sharply. Hold on. The pursuers opened fire. Plasma shots scorched the sand around them. Vera aimed and fired back, her instincts returning like lightning. Every move was precise, perfect. She hit one of the engines, sending it spinning into the dunes. Draven looked at her. She wasn't hesitating anymore. The killer was still inside her, but this time she wasn't enjoying it. The second craft hit their side, throwing them off balance. Draven managed to keep control, steering them toward a rocky canyon. They dove between the cliffs just as the craft fired again. Vera turned, took a deep breath, and shot a single round. The plasma bolt hit the canyon wall, triggering a rock slide. The explosion buried the enemy craft beneath tons of stone. Silence fell again. Draven stopped the Sand Rider, breathing hard. You still remember how to fight, he said. She lowered her weapon, her hands shaking. I don't want to, but it's all I know. Draven looked at her with something like pity, or maybe respect. Then maybe it's time you learn something else. That night, as they camped in the canyon, Vera sat by the fire, staring at her hands. I've killed so many people, she whispered, and I don't even know their names. Draven poked the fire with a stick. Then start by remembering yours. She looked up. Vera KYN. Good, he said. That's a start. But far above them, unseen in the darkness, a long-range scanner locked onto their position. On a distant ship, Rax Arden smiled coldly. Found you. The canyon was quiet after the fight. Thin smoke rose from the wrecked skimmer buried under rock, and the twin suns were sinking behind the cliffs. Draven worked on the Sandrider's engine, while Vera stood guard, the wind lifting dust around her boots. He kept glancing at her. She moved like a soldier again, watchful, balanced, but her face showed something else. Doubt. When the engine finally purred back to life, he said, "We keep moving at first light. They'll send more." Vera nodded. "They already have. Someone out there wants me alive, not dead. That means they'll never stop." Draven looked into the growing dark. "Then we make them stop." Night fell hard. The desert temperature dropped fast. Inside a small cave, a fire flickered between them. Vera stared into the flames. "That name, Rax Arden. You froze when you heard it." Draven's jaw tightened. "He used to be my captain. The best shot in the 11th Fleet. After the war ended, he turned into something else. Hunts men and machines for money now." "So he'll come for the bounty," Vera said quietly. "He'll come for both of us," Draven answered. "Rax doesn't leave loose ends." Outside, a faint echo rolled through the canyon. The deep rumble of a dropship cutting through air. The firelight danced across the stone as they both looked up. Draven whispered, "He's here." Far above, the ship circled once and landed on a plateau. Its lights cut through the night like blades. A figure stepped out, tall, armored, his face hidden behind a cracked visor. In one hand, he held a pulse rifle. In the other, a small metal cube glowing red. Rax Arden scanned the canyon below. His voice came through a speaker, calm and cold. "Vera KYN. Draven Cole. You can hide under rocks, or you can come out and talk. Either way, this ends tonight." The sound carried far in the still air. Vera gripped her weapon. "He knows your name, too." Draven loaded his rifle. He always did. They crept along the canyon wall, moving from shadow to shadow. Rax's searchlight swept across the rocks. Every flash of light felt like a heartbeat. When they reached a narrow ledge above the landing site, Draven crouched and looked down. Rax stood beside his ship, scanning with a cube. The device projected two red silhouettes on the rocks, Draven and Vera's exact positions. He turned his head slowly toward them. "Found you." The rifle in his hand fired before Draven could blink. The blast hit the wall beside them, showering sparks. They ducked as rocks exploded around them. Draven pulled Vera back into the tunnel. "Move!" he shouted. They ran deeper into the canyon. Plasma bolts lit the darkness blue and white. Each shot echoed like thunder. Vera stopped suddenly, spun around, and fired. Her shot hit Rax's shoulder plate, throwing him back a step, but he didn't fall. He laughed through the speaker. "You still shoot straight, Ghost, but you're slower now." "Who are you?" Vera shouted. Rax lowered his weapon slightly. "The man who trained the one who made you." Her eyes widened. "Eclipse Division?" He nodded once. "They built you from stolen soldiers' memories, mine, Draven's, and 100 others. You're our Ghost." Draven stared at him in shock. "That's not true." Rax's tone sharpened. "You never asked what they did with the neural scans after the war. Did you, Cole? You ran away. They used our data to build her." Vera's hands trembled. "So the voice inside me, the commands, those were yours?" "Partly," Rax said, "but I'm not here to talk. I'm here to collect." The air tensed. Draven raised his weapon. "You'll have to go through me first." Rax smiled under his visor. "I was hoping you'd say that." He fired. The shot grazed Draven's arm, burning through cloth and skin. Draven rolled behind a boulder, returning fire. Vera joined in, her aim fast and precise. The canyon lit up with flashes of blue and red, sound bouncing off stone until it felt like a storm. Rax moved with deadly calm, every step measured. "You can't win," he said over the comms. "The bounty's too high. Even if I fail, 10 more will come. Then they'll find ashes," Draven growled. Vera took a deep breath, closed her eyes for a second, and reached into the part of her mind she feared, the part full of codes and commands. When she opened them again, her pupils glowed white. She moved faster, her shots hitting exactly where Rax dodged. For the first time, Rax hesitated. "Memories returning?" he said, mocking her. "Maybe," she replied, "but they're mine now." She leaped from the rock and landed behind him, kicking his rifle away. The two fought hand-to-hand, metal against metal, strength against strength. Sparks flew as their blades clashed. Draven limped closer, aiming his rifle but afraid to hit her. Rax grabbed Vera's arm and twisted it painfully. "They'll never let you be free," he hissed. "You're their weapon." She pushed back, teeth clenched. "Then I'll be the weapon that turns on them." She slammed her elbow into his helmet. The visor cracked. Rax stumbled back, dazed. Draven fired one clean shot, hitting the control cube in Rax's hand. It exploded in a burst of light. Rax fell to one knee, smoke rising from his armor. Breathing hard, Vera aimed her weapon at his chest. "Give me one reason not to end this." Rax looked up at her through the broken visor. "Because I'm not your enemy." "They are. Eclipse Division is sending a retrieval fleet. You have less than 12 hours. He dropped the data chip onto the ground. "Coordinates. Their main base. You want freedom? Burn it down." Before she could react, he triggered a smoke charge. Thick gray mist swallowed the canyon. When it cleared, Rax and his ship were gone. Silence returned. Only the wind whispered through the cliffs. Draven picked up the chip and looked at Vera. Her hands were shaking, her face pale. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "He said they built me from you." Draven slipped the chip into his pocket. "Maybe that's why I couldn't let you die." Vera looked toward the horizon, where faint lights glowed in the distant sky. Ships descending. "Then we have to finish what they started." Draven nodded. "Eclipse Division." Vera tightened her grip on the rifle. "It's time they learn what mercy can do." The camera of imagination pulls back. Two small figures in a vast desert preparing to fight a shadow that rules the stars. The sun was rising over the desert when they left the canyon behind. The sky burned golden red, and the sand glowed like fire under the twin suns. Draven and Vera rode silently on the Sand Rider. The engines hummed the only sound between them. The night's battle had changed everything. The name Eclipse Division echoed in Vera's mind again and again. Every time she closed her eyes, flashes appeared, metal corridors, white lights, voices giving orders, and blood. Too much blood. She held her head and whispered, "They built me from memories." Draven looked at her, his expression calm but heavy. "Rax said they used soldiers' neural data. If that's true, then part you came from me too." Vera turned sharply. "From you?" He nodded slowly. "When I served in the 11th Fleet, the division took full scans of our neural responses. For research, they said. It was for advanced AI development. We didn't know they were building killers." She looked away, voice trembling. "So I'm a piece of you and all the others who died." Draven didn't answer. Some truths didn't need words. By midday, they reached a broken satellite relay station, one of the few places still half working. Draven connected the data chip racks, had given them to the console. Lines of green code filled the crack screen. A map appeared, a huge installation buried inside a black mountain range. The coordinates pulsed in red. "Eclipse Division, primary facility, Sector 19. Vera stared at the screen. "That's where I was made." Draven zoomed in on the image. "It's heavily guarded. Drones, shields, maybe even orbital defense." "I don't care," she said. "They built me to kill for them. Now I'll destroy what they made." Draven watched her closely. "Vera, if we go there, you'll find things you're not ready for. They might have others like you." "Then I'll free them," she said softly. They set up camp beside the relay. That night, a cold wind swept across the dunes. Vera sat alone, watching the stars. She could almost feel the invisible wires inside her mind, the codes, the programs, the orders still sleeping. Draven joined her, sitting beside her in silence for a long time. Finally he said, "Back when I was a soldier, I believed the system could be fixed. That justice was possible if you fought hard enough. Then I saw what Eclipse did. Vera glanced at him. You lost someone, didn't you? He nodded. My sister. She was taken for experiments. They said she died in a lab accident. But when I saw you, I saw her face for a second, like a flicker. Vera's breath caught. You think they use her data too? I don't know, he said. But if there's even a chance, I have to find out. She looked up at the stars again. Maybe that's why we met. You wanted to save your sister. And I needed someone to save me. Draven smiled faintly. Maybe the universe still has a strange sense of mercy. Before dawn, they moved again, heading toward the Black Mountains in the far distance. The desert turned into sharp rock and ash plains. The air grew heavy, full of static. Hours passed before they saw it. A massive metal structure carved into the mountain, glowing faintly blue. Towers reached high into the clouds, and patrol drones moved in silent patterns across the sky. That's it, Draven said. Eclipse Division headquarters. Vera stared at it with quiet fury. Looks smaller than I remember. Maybe that's because you're not afraid anymore, he said. She smiled faintly. Maybe. They parked the Sand Rider behind a ridge and scanned the area. Draven pulled out a small EMP grenade. Once we're inside, this can shut down their defense grid for 60 seconds. It's not much, but it'll get us through the first gate. Vera loaded her weapon. 60 seconds is enough. They waited for nightfall. The sky turned black, and lightning flickered across the far horizon. As the storm began, they made their move. Draven threw the EMP charge. A flash of blue light rippled through the air, and the defense shields flickered and died. Go! He shouted. They ran through the gap, sliding past fallen drones. The wind howled, sand whipping around them. Inside the first corridor, red lights flashed as alarms started to wail. Security breach, Sector Gate 1, a robotic voice echoed. Vera shot the first guard drone before it finished the sentence. Sparks burst across the walls. They moved deeper, turning corners, ducking under beams of red light. Every wall looked familiar to her. Every hallway felt like a ghost from her dreams. Suddenly, a door opened ahead, a lab filled with glowing pods. Inside, each one was a figure. Some looked human, others machine. All had the same faint green skin tone as Vera. She froze. They made more. Draven stepped beside her. They're like you. Vera pressed her hand against the glass of one pod. The woman inside looked almost peaceful, her eyes closed, her face calm. But on the screen beside it, one word blinked. Status. Terminate/reset pending. They're going to wipe them, she said, anger rising in her voice. Draven looked around. If we trigger a power surge, we can shut down the control system. Maybe even wake them up. Vera nodded. Do it. As Draven began to rewire the control panel, Vera turned to the nearest pod. Wake up, she whispered. You're free now. The pod hissed open. The woman's eyes snapped wide, glowing bright white. She gasped and looked at Vera in confusion. Who are you? Someone like you, Vera said. But we don't have much time. Draven finished the wiring and slammed the switch. The entire lab went dark for a second, then flickered to life again. Every pod began to open one by one. Dozens of voices filled the air, confused, scared, human. The alarm changed tone, sharper, louder. Containment breach in Lab Sector 7. The voice roared. Vera raised her weapon. Draven, we have to move now. He nodded. Follow me. As they ran to the corridor, the freed clones followed, a silent army of faces like hers. They reached the exit door, but it sealed shut. The screens above it turned red, displaying a single word. Override. Code Alpha ///Director Online. Vera's heart froze. A hologram flickered to life. A tall woman in a white uniform. Cold eyes. Calm smile. Welcome home. Subject KYN-001, she said. You weren't supposed to remember. Vera stepped forward, trembling with rage. You made me a killer. The hologram tilted its head slightly. No, we made you perfect. Draven raised his rifle. Not anymore. The hologram smiled faintly. Then let's see how perfect your freedom really is. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo behind them, armored soldiers pouring into the corridor. Vera turned to Draven. "Get them out," she said. "What about you?" he asked. She looked at the clones behind her. "I started this. I'll finish it." Draven hesitated, then nodded once. "Don't die." She smiled faintly. "I'll try." The corridor exploded with gunfire and light. Vera moved like lightning, the weapon part of her arm, her body glowing with power. Every shot she took was perfect, every movement precise. But she wasn't fighting for blood now. She was fighting for freedom. As Draven led the others toward the exit, he looked back once. The last thing he saw was Vera standing in the smoke, surrounded by enemies, eyes glowing bright like stars, a ghost of war reborn for a new purpose. The alarm siren screamed across the eclipse facility, echoing through every corridor. Red lights flashed like heartbeats in the dark. Smoke rose from shattered consoles, and the floor trembled with explosions. Vera stood in the middle of it all, her body glowing faint white under flickering lights. Around her, fallen guards lay scattered, some still breathing, some not. Her weapon hissed as it cooled down, but she barely noticed. She could still hear the hologram's voice in her head. "We made you perfect." For the first time, she wasn't sure what that meant anymore. Across the compound, Draven led the freed clones through a narrow maintenance tunnel. The walls shook as blast doors sealed behind them. The group moved quickly, some limping, some crying silently. One clone, a young woman with short silver hair, spoke quietly. "Who is she?" "The one fighting them." Draven glanced back. "Her name's Vera. She's the reason you're alive." The clone nodded slowly. "She looks like us." "She's not like anyone," Draven said. "She made a choice they never expected." Behind them, another explosion ripped through the corridor. Dust rained from the ceiling. "We're running out of time," he muttered. Inside the main hall, Vera stepped over a fallen drone. Her left arm sparked. A bullet had grazed one of her neural lines. She tore a strip from her sleeve and wrapped it tight around the wound. The pain was sharp, but it helped her stay focused. Through the haze, she saw a reflection on a broken wall, herself. Blood on her face, eyes glowing. But for the first time, she didn't see a weapon. She saw a person. Then she heard a voice. "You can't save them all, Subject KYN." The holographic director appeared again, larger now, projected from multiple walls. Her tone was calm, almost kind. "You are still linked to our system. Every step you take, every thought you have, I see it. You can't run from what you are." Vera aimed her weapon at the projection. "Then stop me?" The director smiled faintly. "We already did. You just don't remember." Suddenly, Vera's vision blurred. Pain shot through her head like electricity. She fell to one knee, gripping her skull. Lines of code flashed before her eyes, old commands buried deep inside her mind. "Eliminate target, non-compliant subjects. Return to base. Sleep." "No," she whispered. "Not again." The voice grew louder. "You were never free, Vera. You are our design." Her hands trembled. She could feel her body refusing to move the way she wanted. The director's control signal was taking over. Draven and the clones reached the outer gate. The massive steel door stood closed, sealed by an override code. Draven slammed his fist against the panel. Come on, come on." The silver-haired clone stepped beside him. "Let me try." Her eyes glowed faintly as she placed her hand on the scanner. Within seconds, the system beeped. Access granted. The door slid open, revealing the storm outside, dark skies flashing with lightning. Draven looked at her, impressed. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "I don't have one." He nodded once. "Then pick one. You've earned it." She smiled faintly. "Call me Mira." "All right, Mira," he said. "Help the others. We'll wait for Vera." Back inside, Vera fought herself, literally. Her arm lifted without command. Her weapon turned toward the exit. "Stop," she growled through gritted teeth. Her own voice answered in her head, a recorded command tone. "Obey." She screamed and dropped to her knees. The director's hologram stepped closer. You see now, mercy is weakness. Obedience is survival. Let me erase the pain, Vera. Come home. But as the director spoke, another voice began to rise inside her mind. Faint at first, then stronger. It was Draven's voice. A memory. You're not their weapon anymore. Her breathing slowed. The white glow in her eyes dimmed, replaced by something softer, human resolve. She whispered, You gave me your memories, but you can't take my choices. She slammed her hand against her chest, activating the internal override. The neural circuit in her arm sparked violently. Pain surged through her whole body, but the control signal broke. Her weapon fell from her hand, smoking. She gasped for air. Free again. The director's image flickered, eyes widening. What did you do? Vera stood slowly. I rewrote your code. She aimed her weapon at the nearest console and fired. Sparks burst across the walls as the control network went dark. The hologram glitched and vanished in static. Outside, Draven saw the facility lights flicker, then explode in a chain reaction. Vera, he whispered. A huge blast shook the ground, and fire shot out from the mountainside. The clones stumbled back in fear, shielding their faces. Mira shouted, She's still in there. Draven started running toward the fire, but Mira grabbed his arm. You can't. The structure's collapsing. He tore his arm free. I don't care. The mountain roared as metal fell from above. A section of the gate blew open, and through the smoke, a figure emerged, walking slowly. Vera. Her suit was scorched, her face cut and bruised, but she was alive. The clone stared in silence as she stumbled forward. Draven ran to her and caught her before she fell. You did it, he said softly. She looked up weakly. Not yet. The director escaped. She's still out there, somewhere. Draven nodded. Then we find her. Together. Vera smiled faintly. Together? Lightning cracked above them as the Eclipse facility burned. The freed clones gathered around, watching the place that had created them crumble into dust. Vera stood among them, wind in her hair, eyes reflecting the fire. For the first time, she wasn't just a weapon or a shadow. She was something new, a person born from war, built for mercy. Draven placed a hand on her shoulder. What now? She looked toward the horizon, where the storm met the stars. Now, she said quietly, we start a new war, one for freedom. The fire from the ruined Eclipse base still burned in the distance, lighting up the dark desert sky like a dying star. Smoke curled into the air, carrying the last screams of metal and memory. Vera stood in silence, her face half lit by the flames. Around her, the freed clones huddled together, exhausted and frightened. For them, the world had just begun. Draven watched her from a few steps away. He had seen soldiers, machines, and monsters, but Vera was something else entirely. She was proof that mercy could survive even inside a weapon. Finally, he broke the silence. We need to move. The blast will draw attention. Patrols, scavengers, maybe even bounty hunters. Vera nodded slowly. You're right. But before we go, there's something I need to know. She walked toward the burning ruins, stopped near a broken console, and reached into the ashes. Her fingers brushed a half-melted device. A data core. Draven frowned. That could be unstable. I know, she said, but it might have answers. They set up a small camp miles away, hidden inside an old mining tunnel. The clones rested near the walls, while Draven worked on powering up the data core with a portable generator. Sparks flickered, and the screen finally came to life. Lines of encrypted code scrolled across it before settling on a single message. Project Ghostline. Contingency active. Director relocation. Unknown. Subject KYN. 001 status. Compromised. Initiate protocol. Reclamation. Draven leaned closer. Reclamation? That doesn't sound good. Vera stared at the words. It means they're coming for me. For all of us. A cold silence filled the tunnel. Even the wind outside had gone still. Mira, the silver-haired clone, spoke softly. Then we fight. Vera looked at her. This young woman who had only been alive for a few hours, already ready to die for something she barely understood. "No," Vera said. "We don't fight to destroy. We fight to live, to be free." Draven met her eyes. "Freedom has a price." She nodded. "Then I'll pay it." Hours passed. The storm outside began to fade. Vera couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the director's face, calm, confident, unshaken. Somewhere out there, that woman was watching, waiting. She walked outside the tunnel, the night air cold against her skin. The stars stretched endless above her, the same stars she used to hunt under before she knew what she was. Behind her, Draven followed quietly. "You never stop thinking, do you?" She smiled faintly. "It's hard to sleep when you used to be someone's weapon." He stood beside her, looking up at the same sky. "You're not that anymore." She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Maybe, but part of me still remembers every kill, every order, every scream. Those memories don't just fade." Draven looked at her gently. "Then don't bury them. Use them. Make them mean something." She studied his face, the tired soldier who chose mercy over fear. "Even when the universe told him not to, you always talk like there's hope." He gave a small laugh. "That's because I found some." For a moment, the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. Just before dawn, the peace broke. A sharp hum echoed across the rocks. Drones. Dozens of them. Blue lights cut through the darkness, moving fast. Vera spun around. "They found us." Draven grabbed his rifle. "How?" Mira ran out from the tunnel, eyes wide. "The data core was a tracker." Vera cursed under her breath. "Get everyone inside the deep shafts. Now!" Draven nodded and turned to clones. "Move. Go, go." The drones descended like a swarm of metal locusts, firing plasma bursts that exploded against the ground. Dust filled the air. Vera fired back, hitting one drone clean through its core, but 3 more replaced it. "Too many," Draven shouted. Vera's mind raced. The air shimmered with energy, a familiar pattern. Then she saw it. A ship in the distance, sleek and black, hovering low. On its hull glowed a symbol she recognized, the Eclipse insignia. Her heart pounded. The director sent a hunter. The ship landed heavily, kicking up sand and fire. The ramp lowered, and a figure stepped out, armored in silver black, face hidden behind a smooth helmet. His voice echoed through a speaker. "Subject KYN-001. You are ordered to surrender for reclamation. Resistance will result in termination." Draven stood beside her. "Any idea who that is?" Vera's voice dropped low. "A ghost line enforcer. They're built for my design, stronger, faster, no human inside. So, basically you versus your reflection." She gave a grim smile. "Pretty much." The enforcer lifted his arm. "Final warning." Vera stepped forward. "You'll have to kill me first." The battle that followed was chaos. Plasma fire lit the canyon walls as drones screamed overhead. Vera moved like lightning, each shot hitting with deadly precision. But the enforcer was faster. He matched her move for move, like a mirror of her own body. Draven took down drones from the ridge, covering her as best he could. Mira and the others dragged wounded clones back into the tunnels. "Vera!" Draven shouted. "Fall back!" She ignored him. She charged straight at the enforcer, their weapons colliding in a flash of blue light. Sparks flew as metal met metal. The enforcer's voice was cold. "You were the first. I am the last. You cannot win." Vera pushed back, teeth clenched. "Then I'll make sure you don't either." She kicked off the ground, spun, and fired point-blank into his chest. The blast sent him crashing into a rock wall. But he rose again, armor cracked, but still moving. Draven ran to her side. "He's not stopping." "Then neither do we," she said. They fought together, one human, one half-machine, against a machine made to replace her. Every hit felt like striking a shadow of herself. Finally, as the enforcer raised his weapon for a killing blow, Vera saw a weak point, the same neural core she once had. She fired. The shot pierced the enforcer's chest. He froze, light flickering across his body, then fell to his knees. Protocol complete. His voice faded as the systems powered down. He collapsed, lifeless. Silence fell. The last drone crashed to sand. The first light of dawn touched the desert again. Vera stood over the fallen enforcer, breathing hard. They'll send more. Draven wiped dust from his face. Then we'll be ready. Mira stepped forward, holding a small glowing chip she'd taken from the enforcer's armor. This might help. It contains their next move. Vera took the chip carefully. Then we know where to go next. She looked at the rising sun. A new day, a new battle, and somewhere in the stars, a woman still controlling the strings. Vera's eyes hardened. This isn't over. Draven smiled faintly. Wouldn't be fun if it was.